This is the Louie Tee Network.
In the lab room.
The views and opinions shared on this program are that of Louie Tee and In the Lab Room alone and should be taken exactly as they are given. If you are soft, easily offended, or can't listen to the criticism of your team, this program is not intended for you. This is pure, unadulterated football talk for the hardcore fan. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome, you are in the lab room. I am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on this program, 2014 NFL Lab Reports. Today we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. So, let's go. I'm shooting the bow. Kansas City Chiefs 2014 NFL Lab Reports. When you're living right in the National Football League. And boy, were the Kansas City Chiefs living good last year or what? Now, this Chiefs team, they had a lot of deficiencies, but they had so many things that they did right. So many different instances where the ball bounced their way last season, that this team ended up, I feel like, overachieving in 2013. Now, there are so many things that they did well last year, I couldn't remember all of them. So I had to get my crack staff on the case. I needed hard, concrete evidence, hard numbers, factual evidence to back up these claims. And so I got my crack staff to give me a list of the things that the Kansas City Chiefs did extremely well last year, and I'm going to read them off to you one by one. And after I'm done with this list, you're going to wonder how this team didn't win 14 or 15 games last year, how this team didn't play in the AFC Championship game last year, how this team didn't win a Super Bowl. With all of the things that they did well, this is a recipe for success, what I'm about to read to you. So let's just get into it. First things first. Turnover differential plus 18, second best in the league. That's how you do it. Two things go into having a turnover differential that high in the pluses. Okay. Fact number one. You got to take care of the football yourself. You can't turn it over at an alarming rate if you're that high in the plus turnover category. If you're getting it that high up in the positive in the turnover differential, that means you're taking care of the football. And there is no, and I mean no, more cautious quarterback in this league than Captain Checkdown. So, you know they took care of the football. Now, the only thing that could have offset Captain Checkdown and his careful, painstakingly carefulness with the football was Jamal Charles putting on. We know Jamal Charles has had struggles holding on to the football throughout his career. So it wouldn't have been a surprise if he would have put it on the carpet 6 or 7 times last year. But he didn't. He didn't. And so the combination of Alex Smith at quarterback and Jamal Charles holding on to the football, perfect combination for this team to not turn it over. And then the other part of this dynamic is you got to force turnovers yourself. And nobody, and I mean nobody, did it better than this Chiefs team a season ago. So plus 18 in the turnover differential. That is phenomenal football. And look, you win the turnover battle in this league, you're going to win a heck of a lot of games. And even if you don't win, you're going to be in some ball games just forcing turnovers in this league. You look at another strength. the least amount of interceptions thrown, and this goes hand in hand with what we just talked about. Perfect segue from the plus 18 turnover differential to just 8 interceptions thrown. And this is more indicative of dun, 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 Captain Checkdown. Alex Smith isn't throwing the football to the wrong color jersey. You know how this goes. Alex will check it down 15 times before he throws it into double coverage. You know what you're getting with Alex Smith. And so 8 interceptions thrown last year is no surprise. Now, that's a gift and it's a curse. We'll talk about the curse a little bit later, but right now, that's a gift that keeps on giving to the offense. You look at another strength. Rush offense. Jamal Charles just got a new extension with this Chiefs football team, and for good reason. Jay Charles is the man in Kansas City. And so this rush offense was in the top 10 in just about every statistical category there was. Yards per carry, yards per game, yards total on the season, rushing touchdowns, you name it. If it's a statistical category for rush offense, this Chiefs team was in the top 10 in that category. So they were dynamic on the ground, and it all starts with Jay Charles up front. Now, I'll tell you what, it's not just Jay Charles, because this team, and you saw the depth be tested in the postseason, this team has depth at the running back position. Whether it be Cyrus Gray or it's now Davis, they've got depth. They've got guys that could probably start for some other teams in the National Football League. And so this Kansas City Chiefs team has a stable of backs that would make the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks jealous. And so this is a team that can run with the best of them. And last year, that's exactly what they did. You go on to another strength. And I talked about this in previous videos for other teams. There were 3 elite special teams units in terms of return units a season ago. And that was the Baltimore Ravens, the Minnesota Vikings, and these Kansas City Chiefs. And it didn't matter. It seemed like whoever touched the football, they turned it into gold last season. It didn't matter if it was Dexter McCluster or if it was Nile Davis or if it was the safety that you let walk away in free agency. It didn't matter who it was. Whomever was returning it, whether it was a kickoff or it was a punt, they were going the distance last year. And it was mind-boggling to see how many times the Chiefs were able to get in the end zone via special teams last year. And for a team that found it hard to score offensively, you need all the help you can get. This special teams unit, return unit specifically, obliged. They got in the end zone. They helped out this offense. So special teams, they led the NFL in both kickoff and punt return touchdowns with 2 apiece. And look, most teams in this league will be happy with 1. They had 2 of both. And when I say 1, I mean a punt return or a kickoff return. I'm not saying both of 1 of each. I'm talking about just 1 of either one of them. Most teams in the league will be ecstatic with just getting 1 total. The Chiefs had 4, 2 of each. They said, hey, it was so nice I had to do it twice on both kickoffs and punt return. They were dynamite last year on kickoff and punt returns. This special teams return unit, period, was the best in the league, bar none, hands down. You look at another strength of this Kansas City Chiefs. Whoa, we going through these strengths, man. I'm telling you, the Chiefs, they were living right last year. They were living right. Some teams, they run amok, they live in foul, and the football guys, they come down and they touch them. But this Chiefs team, they were living right last year. And so they were running and gunning last year. Running and gunning. 21 interceptions. Of those 21 INTs, 5 of them were pick sixes. That's 35 points right there. If you tack on the extra point for every single one, that's 35 points. I just talked about the special teams and 4 touchdowns there. That's another 28 points. You're talking about, but hey, look, I'm not even done yet. And that was 3rd most in the league, by the way. 2 21 interceptions, third most in the league, and the 5 touchdowns off of those interceptions, tops in the league. And then you turn around and you go with the fumbles that they forced. They were up in the top of the league, around the top of the league in fumbles forced. But this is the crazy part. Listen to this. They had the most fumble recoveries in the National Football League with 15. Of those 15, 2 went to the crib. But check this out. They only forced 13 fumbles on the season. Did you hear what I just said? Let me say it one more time, because that one might have snuck past you. It might have went right over your head. So I'm going to say it one more time. They only forced 13 fumbles last year, but they recovered 15. They recovered more fumbles than they forced on the season. That's how you know you're living right. When you can force a fumble, recover it, you fumble yourself, and you recover that fumble too. Man, so add on 2 more touchdowns to the already 5 that they forced off of the interceptions. That's 49 points. You tack on another 28 points to the 49 that they already had. You're talking about 77 points from this Chiefs defense and special teams. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? From special teams and defense, 77 extra points. And I'm not talking point after touchdown extra points. I'm talking about free money. I'm talking about free money. Who don't like coming into new money? That's free money. That's new money. You know the crisp bills that you get that you can barely separate when you get them from the bank? That's that new money. 77 extra points. That's new money. Smells great. And the Chiefs were smelling like roses last year on special teams and defense. They were running and gunning. And last but not least, this defense was out of bounds last year. This defense was out of bounds last season. They were just forcing things left and right. Let's just break down all the things they did on defense well last year, because again, the offense didn't score a lot of points. Now, I just told you that everybody chipped in. It was like a fundraiser last year for the Kansas City Chiefs. The defense chipped in, special teams chipped in. Hell, I'm pretty sure the officials chipped in at one point. It was just so good. They were living good, right? They were living right last year. Let's talk about this defense, though. Third down efficiency, 34% on the defensive side of the football. On third downs, you're getting off the field. That was one of the best in the league, top 5. 34%, that is dental floss thin. 19.1 points per game given up. That's good for 5th best in the league. Anytime you're giving up under 20, you're going to win a hell of a lot of games in this league. Straight up. Straight up. Because most teams are scoring up over 20 points a game. Okay? Most teams are going to score up over 20. So if you're giving up less than 20, you're going to win yourself a boatload of games. No wonder the Chiefs won 11 games last year. You giving up less than 20, you're going to win a lot of games. You forcing turnovers, you plus 18 in the turnover differential, you're going to win a lot of games that way. Your special teams is going off, scoring touchdowns on punts and kickoffs, you're going to win some football games. And you're only giving up 19 points. What? Oh, yeah. You're going to win some football games. 47 sacks. That's a really, really good number. And this number could have been outstanding if not for the injuries towards the end of the season. You've got to know that if Tamba Hali doesn't go down with an injury, and if Justin Houston stays healthy, and he missed about, I'd say the last 4 or 5 games of the season, if he doesn't go down, you've got to know that this sack total is up over 50. Up over 50. If those 2 guys stay healthy the entire season, there's no way that both of these guys don't have double-digit sacks, and both of these, I'm assuming both of these guys probably have over 11 sacks apiece. If not for the injury, this number is probably 53 or something like that. Because even if they're not getting the sacks, their pressure is going to help generate a sack for someone else. So while 47 is a really good number, this could have been even worse had those guys stayed healthy last season. 56.4 completion percentage, second best in the National Football League. That kind of goes hand in hand with that third down percentage. Again, if you're stopping the run on first and second down, you're getting teams in third and long, you're getting sacks, 47 of them, you're getting a sack on second down, forcing a team into third and long. Hey, that completion percentage, if it's down low enough, you're getting off the field on third downs. And the Chiefs did that last season, and part of the reason they were able to do that completion percentage was pretty low for opposing quarterbacks. And a lot of that also had to do with pressure. 78.5 passer rating, again, one of the best passer ratings defensively in the league, keeping teams down, not allowing a lot of touchdowns to be thrown, and not allowing the completion percentage to be extremely high. Those things all affect, and of course, those 21 INTs, they all affect the passer rating, and the Chiefs, they did it really big last season. And last but not least, slightly some icing on the cake. This Chiefs defense only allowed 9 rushing touchdowns a season ago. Man, did those Kansas City Chiefs do it up big last year in the strength department. And you wonder how they only managed to win 11 games, how they did not host a home playoff game and they were ousted in wild card weekend. Well, they've got some weaknesses too. Let's discuss them right now. For all of the good the Kansas City Chiefs did on third downs defensively, getting off the field, the offense basically wiped it away. Wax on, wax off. And so 35% efficiency on third downs offensively, 4th worst in the National Football League a season ago. And a lot of that speaks to another weakness that we'll discuss here in a second, but this Chiefs team struggled on third downs. And a lot of it can be traced back to its conservative nature, headlined by their quarterback, dun, 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 Captain Checkdown. And so when you're running the football the way they ran it last year, and they ran it really effectively last season, but guess what happens when on first down you decide to run it and you only pick up 2? On second down you decide to run it again and you only get 1. Now it's 3rd and 7. When you've got one of the worst passing games in all of the National Football League, and you're a very conservative football team with a quarterback that refuses to push it down the field if it's not there. If it's there, Alex will stroke it. But the problem is, you don't have a lot of guys that win one-on-one matchups. You have a lot of receivers that DBs stick to them like glue. And so if guys aren't winning one-on-one, Alex is not comfortable throwing a receiver open. That's just not his game. You need to be open before I get there, before I throw you the football. And so, and Debo was one of the guys that routinely won one-on-one, but he's a guy that will have a DB on his back as well. It's not like he's just blazing cats, but again, your wide receiving core was underwhelming a season ago. Your tight end situation was all jacked up with all the injuries last season. So you were relegated to just throwing the football to backs out of the backfield and occasionally sprinkling the football to Dwayne Bowe and one of these tight ends, whether it's Anthony Fasano or someone of that nature. So this offense last year was anemic, especially on third downs, which takes us to our next weakness. 6.5 yards per completion, 5th worst in the league last year. You've got to be better in terms of getting the football in the hands of playmakers and allowing them to make plays. These Chief receivers, and again, I'll speak about this a little bit later because I was a little disappointed with the Chiefs not addressing the wide receiver position in the offseason. But this Chiefs receiver group last year, underwhelming. And the tight end position, I talked about the injuries, that stung. So guys weren't getting open. And then when guys were open, they were dropping the football last year. So this was a team that struggled to have chunk plays and to really make teams pay for the fact that they needed to pay attention to Jamal Charles. You would think that with the success that Jamal Charles had on the ground last year and even catching it out of the backfield, that teams would be keying in on him and that would open up avenues for other guys to make plays, but it just didn't happen. 6.5 yards per completion, 5th worst in the league. You got to be better than that if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. How about penalties? Here's something that they can clean up. On both sides of the football, the Kansas City Chiefs had over 100 penalties on both sides. Now, the penalty yardage stemming from those penalties, not that bad. Not that bad. However, 100 penalties plus on both sides of the football, offensively and defensively, is way too many penalties. Okay, eventually those will catch up with you, especially on defense. Again, keep in mind, all right? And for this team, offense is going to kill you. And I'll talk about both briefly. Defensive penalties, it doesn't matter what the yardage is stemming from them. Again, the yardage could be minimal. I mean, it could be a 5-yard holding penalty, 5-yard illegal contact. It's not the yardage that kills you. It's the fresh set of downs that's going to get you in the end. If it's 3rd and 12 and you get a holding penalty, that's a first down. Even though it's only 5 yards, it's a first down. It's a fresh set of downs. It's new life on a drive that looked like it could be over. So defensive penalties, they sting. Even if the yardage doesn't say so, they sting. Now, offensive penalties, for a good offense, you can overcome offensive penalties and mistakes. But for a Chiefs offense that struggled, I just told you they struggled on 3rd down. You can't afford a holding penalty on 2nd and 4 after getting a 6-yard gain on 1st down. If Alec checks it down on 1st down and picks up 6, you can't afford a Rodney Hudson 10-yard holding penalty on 2nd down that gives you 2nd and 14, because you're probably not going to get yourself out of that hole because your offense isn't explosive enough to do that. So, yeah, for the Kansas City Chiefs, those penalties sting. Got to be better at lowering the number of penalties down from a season ago. And last but not least, field goal kicking accuracy. This team struggled last year, and Ryan Succop is largely to blame for that. He missed about 5, 6, or 7. I want to say he missed about 5 field goals last year. It might have been 7. Either way, 79%. I'm thinking 79% sounds more like 7 missed field goals to me. I think he was 22 of 29, something around along those lines. And for a team that, again, struggled to score points at times, the Chiefs' points per game, I don't think really is a true representation of how this team struggled to score the football last year, because you had a couple of outbursts last year, a couple of outlying games that really made that point per game average look a lot loftier than what it really was. Against the Redskins and Raiders late in the season in back-to-back weeks, you scored over 50 points in 2 consecutive games, and that really boosted your seemingly anemic offensive point output. And so I don't really know if this offense is one that you want to rely on to score 27 points every game. That's just not how they operate. Special teams chipped in, defense chipped in last year. Your field goal kicker needs to chip in as well. And he didn't chip in enough last season. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back last year was you had reserves in the game last year. You had some backups in. And they played their hearts out in Week 17. And you had a chance to stick it to one of your fellow AFC West family members in the San Diego Chargers. They were fighting, scratching, clawing, trying to make it to the postseason. And you had a chance to put their season to bed, to put them to rest. And what did Ryan Succop do? He missed the game-winning field goal, which ultimately allowed the San Diego Chargers to win the game in overtime and make it to the postseason. And they even got further in the postseason than you did. So that was a bitter pill to swallow. And Ryan Succop is a guy that is inconsistent, did not make enough field goals. And that 79%, 4th worst in the league in terms of percentage, that can't happen. Again, especially for a team that needs all the help they can get offensively. If I put together, and you know the Chiefs, they don't have a problem putting together a 13-play, 82-yard drive that results in a field goal because they couldn't get in the end zone. I need you to cap that off. And the bad thing about Ryan Succop is he was an equal opportunity offender when it comes to misses. He missed about 3 from 50+. He missed 2 from 49. I think he missed another 2 from 30 to 39. And again, to me, 40 to 49, that's the money distance in this league. If you can't make those, I have a problem with you. When you go to 30 to 39, oh, you better not miss any of those. Those are freebies. When I look down a list of kickers and teams and how they fared 30 to 39, it better say 100%. 30, it better say 10 of 10, 12 of 12, 8 of 8, 6 of 6, 9 of 9. Not 8 of 10 or whatever it was for the Chiefs. He missed 2 of those too. Can't have it. Can't win with it. Won't win with it. So Ryan Succop, he's now in a camp battle to save his job, and rightfully so, because that was a weakness for this Kansas City Chiefs team a season ago. So we talked about all the strengths, all the weaknesses. We go from those two different things and dynamics to camp battles for the Kansas City Chiefs. As you see behind me, I have the assistance of my handy dandy trusty big board. You know, I got the handy dandy pointer present as well. I'm going to use the both of them to help me break down these camp battles as well as the experiment for this Kansas City Chiefs football team. So you start with a quarterback battle. And it's not for the first nor the backup quarterback positions on this football team, but for the third. And this was one of those head scratchers for me, where I just said, what are you doing, Kansas City? Why are you doing this? See, my initial thought was, and let's talk about this quickly, Tyler Bray versus Aaron Murray. Last season, you drafted Tyler Bray as a developmental quarterback, big arm, a kid with all the raw talents necessary to flourish as a quarterback at the next level. He just needed to be coached up. Get the footwork clean, get the mental aspect of the game down pat, and all the raw tools, all the physical gifts are there. So it was just all about fixing up a few things, tweaking some things here and there, and then getting the mental approach to the game together for this kid to be successful. So I'm thinking the Chiefs must really like this kid. They're going to work with him over the next couple of years and see if they can't groom him into to maybe being the future of this franchise, or at worst, a quality backup in this league. Then the next season, the very next year in the draft, you take Aaron Murray in the 5th round, and I'm saying to myself, what are we doing here? So I said, the assumption for me, and I can't speak for anybody else, the assumption that I made, they must not like Tyler Bray. They must not have been in love with what they saw from him a season ago. And if Aaron Murray comes in, performs well, he'll be their 3rd string quarterback, the guy that they're going to work with over time. I'm still hearing that they love Tyler Bray. So I'm thinking to myself, what are we doing here? There were other positions that you could have drafted with this pick if you still thought Tyler Bray was the guy. I don't understand the logic here. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe you have the intentions of not bringing Alex Smith back. I've already heard that you're bringing him back. It's a formality. He's going to be back. Maybe you don't love your backup quarterback. Maybe you do. Maybe Chase Daniel is a guy you want around. Maybe he's only around for one more year, and then you're going to move these two quarterbacks into the 2nd and 3rd slot respectively. I don't know what the thinking is here. I just feel like it's overkill. You can't keep 4 quarterbacks on your roster. I know that much. So what's stopping another team from snatching Aaron Murray up and putting him on their active roster and not allowing you to sneak him through waivers and get him onto the practice squad? I mean, that's a risky proposition, because if you let either one of these quarterbacks go, they may not make it and clear through waivers. So that one didn't make a lot of sense to me, unless you were getting rid of Chase Daniel. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. But this is a situation where I feel like Tyler Bray is ahead of the curve in terms of getting onto this roster, because he's got a year under his belt in Andy Reid's system. He's been in this league. He's practiced with this football team for an entire season. He's got this job locked up if he just comes out and performs in preseason. I don't see how Aaron Murray can overtake Tyler Bray if the Chiefs organization likes Tyler Bray enough. So then you're asking yourself, well, can we get Aaron Murray through waivers? Can we clear him? Can we sneak him through? Well, the rest of the league, the other 31 teams turn a blind eye to Aaron Murray being released and not touch him and allow us to get him onto the practice squad? Yeah, asking a lot, because there's 1 or 2 teams out there. Just think about the Patriots for a second. And I know the Patriots probably won't do it, but I'm just saying, Bill Belichick's, he's an ass. Bill Belichick is an ass because he'll just grab him for the sake of saying, you can't have him. You tried to sneak him by me. I won't let you. I'll groom him. I'll shine him up. And I'll get a 6th round pick out of somebody down the road for him. He'll just do it just because. So, good luck with that one. But I think Tyler Bray is going to win that matchup. Running back. And I love the running back position for this Chiefs team. And actually, there's an abundance of riches here, so much so that you might actually have to get rid of a guy that you really want to keep. This is a situation where it might be, and I'm saying might because you might be able to keep 4 backs. Plus a fullback, you're talking about 5 positions being delegated to the fullback, running back positions. I don't know if you have that kind of flexibility to be able to do that or not. Because of some of these other positions, and we'll talk about them here in a second, they might impact your ability to keep an extra back here at running back. But 4 for 3, Jamal Charles, now Davis, DeAnthony Thomas, and Cyrus Gray. Jamal Charles, now Davis, and DeAnthony Thomas are all stone cold lead pipe locks to make this roster. No doubt about it. Now, Cyrus Gray's a kid that I feel like can play football, gives you infinite amounts of production on special teams. You want him on this roster. And we saw Jamal Charles and now Davis get injured in the postseason in the same game last year. So you want to have Cyrus Gray around just in case of an emergency. You can break the glass and pull Cyrus Gray out. However, because of some of these other positions that have some uncertainty attached to them, I don't know if you have the flexibility on the roster to, and also keeping 3 quarterbacks, which I'm not a fan of, but you got to do what you got to do. I don't think you're going to be able to keep 4 running backs. And that's a shame because, again, Cyrus Gray is going to end up on somebody's roster. He's good enough to play in this league. And you know that. And what he brings on special teams cannot be discounted. Cannot. And for you, having one of the best special teams, if not the best special teams a season ago, you don't want to let go of guys that helped you build that core. So, that's tough. That's a tough decision right there. That's a TD for somebody to make. That's not my decision. That's a TD for somebody else to make. That's a tough decision. Good luck. Wide receiver. 7 for 6. 7 guys, 6 roster spots. Dwayne Bowe, Donnie Avery, Junior Hemingway, A.J. Jenkins, Kyle Williams, Albert Wilson, and Frankie Hammond Jr. are all in this mix. Now, Dwayne Bowe, we know about his suspension week 1. So maybe a guy ends up sticking on this roster for a week. I doubt the Chiefs do that. I think they'll run with the 5 other guys plus Bowe, which will make 6. They'll go with 5 for that first week against Tennessee and just feel good about what they have at the receiver position for a week. I think that's going to be a safe assumption. I don't think you keep 7 and have to trim a roster spot somewhere else. And then when he comes back, you cut one of the receivers. I don't know if they want to do that necessarily. So we'll see. You know, we'll see what happens. We'll see how the Chiefs decide to iron out that situation. But Bowe's a lock. Avery's a lock. Junior Hemingway, not only is he an okay receiver, his value is its greatest as a special teams football player. He's not going anywhere. A.J. Jenkins is a guy that is competing right now for starter snaps. We'll talk about him in a second. Kyle Williams, kid coming over from San Francisco last year, tore his ACL, missed the entire season basically with you. He's getting another opportunity. I expect him to be on this football team. Albert Wilson has already flashed some potential as a special teams replacement for the safety that you allowed to walk away to New York that was phenomenal for you in the returns game. So I like what I saw against Cincinnati. One of his returns, it was a special return, about 50-something yards, where he made a couple of guys miss, started, stopped, got to 0, from 0 to 60, immediately got up the field. I think he's got some special ability on special teams. So I think he's going to be around if for no other reason but that. And Frankie Hammond Jr., even though he's performed well in camp, I just think he's going to get caught up in a numbers game. He can't keep 7 receivers. He's going to probably be the odd man out in this group. So Donnie Avery and Kyle Williams, and A.J. Jenkins are battling for that starting role opposite of Dwayne Bowe. And I think Donnie Avery is going to ultimately come out on top there. But A.J. Jenkins is a guy that was a first-round pick by the 49ers. It really did much of nothing in San Francisco. You guys actually traded, first-round potential bust in A.J. Jenkins, and you traded John Baldwin to the 49ers. He's already been released by the 49ers. That's how bad he's performed there. So you're hoping that A.J. Jenkins can fare a lot better for you than Baldwin did for the 49ers. And he's got a lot of ability. There's no mistaking that. It's just him putting it together and getting the mental aspect of the game down pat. But I'm going to briefly talk about this and we'll move on. I was disappointed in the Chiefs because I had mocked them a receiver. And this was such a receiver-rich draft that there was no reason the Kansas City Chiefs shouldn't have gotten a receiver in some portion of this draft. I talked about you wasting a pick on Aaron Murray potentially. You could have drafted a receiver at some point in this draft, and you just failed to do so. That was disappointing because this is an underwhelming group right here. This is a group that scares no one. I'm not afraid of this group. Even if my corners are suspect, I'm not afraid of this group walking down the street right here. They don't scare me. So I want to see how you're going to finagle this. Are you going to do a lot of what you did last year? Now, I know you got some tight ends coming up. Travis Kelce looks really good. He looks really good. He caught a pass last week. Right before the half, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, Travis. Where'd that come from? He smoked everybody. Got in the end zone. You had another young brother out there that's balling at the tight end position. So you feel like, hey, I got some athletic guys at tight end. They're going to offset these receivers. Maybe so. Maybe so. But this is still underwhelming for me right here at receiver. You move on to the offensive line. And this is where a lot of people's distrust in this Kansas City team kind of stems from right here, is all of the changes along this offensive line. Now, yes, there were some changes. They lost 3 offensive linemen from a season ago, but what a lot of people fail to realize is that only 2 of them were legitimate starters. Again, 3 of them started at some point. John Asamoah was the starter in Kansas City before losing that position to Jeff Schwartz, who really was the biggest loss of those 2. A lot of people think of John Asamoah and they say, oh man, Chiefs lost 3 offensive starters last year along this line. But really it was 2 because Asamoah had lost his job to Jeff Schwartz. And he was the diamond in the rough. You uncovered a gem there because before getting to Kansas City, he had been with Carolina, he had been with Minnesota, and he really hadn't done much of anything. He was a solid backup, could start in a pinch. You put him in the game and the dude was lights out last year, so that one stung. And then, of course, you lose, and you knew you were going to lose Brendan Albert at the end of the season. You knew he wasn't coming back. I mean, that whole situation last year, how nasty and dirty that was with the franchise tag and him wanting to go and you wouldn't allowing him to leave. And yeah, you knew that was done. It was over with. So you drafted Eric Fisher because you knew that that position was going to be vacated by Brendan Albert. But there's a lot of question marks. I saw Eric Fisher over there. I was not impressed with him against Cincinnati. He gave up a sack, forced a fumble. Cincinnati recovered it early in that football game. Was not impressed with what I saw out of Eric Fisher. So, and not to say that he won't blossom and grow at left tackle, but he's got some work to do. So there's some question marks along this offensive line. And because there's so many questions, you might actually keep 10 offensive linemen. That's a lot. But when you don't know, you got to keep extras just in case. So Eric Fisher, Donald Stevenson, Jeff Allen, Rishaw Johnson, Rodney Hudson, Ricky Henry, Zach Fulton, Eric Cush, Ryan Harris, and Laurent Duvernay-Tardif rounds out this group. And I see a case where Eric Fisher starts at left tackle, and then you'll have another guy starting at left guard, either Fulton or Stevenson starting, and then you'll have Jeff Allen at one of your other guard positions. You'll have Rodney Hudson starting at center. You'll have one of the other guys starting at guard again, in either Stevenson or Zach Fulton or Jeff Allen. And then I don't know who the right tackle is right now. So I've got some things that I've got to watch this second preseason game for the Kansas City Chiefs, because I need to see what they're doing along this offensive line, because I got a lot of questions. Don't have a lot of answers. I primarily focused on Eric Fisher last time that I watched, and I didn't even watch the rest of the line. So outside of Hudson at center and your left tackle being Eric Fisher, I need to see the rest of this offensive line in action. I'll be looking closely at this next preseason tilt against Carolina to see what you do along this offensive line to make me more comfortable, because right now I'm not comfortable with your offensive line, to be truthful with you. To be very, very frank, I'm not comfortable with what you're putting on the field right now. You move on to linebacker. 10 for 9. Justin Houston, Tamba Hali, Derek Johnson, Joe Mays, D. Ford, Josh Maga, Frank Zombo, Josh Martin, James Michael Johnson, and Nico Johnson. Now, looking at this group, Justin Houston, Tamba Hali, Derek Johnson, D. Ford, Frank Zombo, and probably Joe Mays are all locks to make this roster. You might can throw Josh Maga in there, but it gets a little choppy down here. The waters get a little choppy down here towards the bottom. Josh Martin, James Michael Johnson, Nico Johnson. Now, James Michael Johnson is a guy out of Nevada. I can't see him going anywhere. But the same could be said for Nico Johnson, a guy you drafted out of Alabama just a season ago. But he could easily not make this roster. So there's a lot of stuff going on down here at the bottom. Guys are fighting for their roster spots with this linebacking core. But this is one of your better positions on your football team with Holly and Houston, H&H, sack factory over there getting it done. And Derek Johnson, one of the better middle linebackers in the league that no one talks about. It's pretty safe to say that this group is going to get it done. Whether these guys at the bottom of this group shuffle around or not remains to be seen. But this group is probably, along with your defensive line, your strongest group on this football team. And so I don't worry about your linebackers. It's just really interesting to see if Nico Johnson, after being drafted last year, if he could be on the chopping block in Kansas City. We will see. That is very interesting, one to keep an eye on. You go to safety. 5 for 4. Eric Berry, Hussein Abdullah, Malcolm Bronson, Jerron McMillan, and Daniel Sorensen. Now, Chiefs can't afford to keep 5, even though they might want to keep 5, because you're talking about keeping 10 offensive linemen, because you're talking about keeping 9 outside linebackers instead of 8, because you're talking about keeping 6 receivers because you're unsettled at that position, because you're keeping 3 quarterbacks. There's no way you can keep 5 safeties. Even if you wanted to, you can't. So the running back position is going to suffer. You're probably going to have to cut some bait there, and you're probably going to have to cut someone that you want to keep at safety. And Daniel Sorensen is the guy that's going to have to get cut most likely, because all of the guys in front of him are more talented than he is. He probably brings the most effort and special teams ability, but it's a numbers game, and he's going to get caught up in that trap. And it's unfortunate because he can help you, but he won't get a chance to. He won't get a chance to, I don't think. I could be wrong. Injuries could alter this situation in this group, and he could be on this roster. But if all things stay the same, I can't see him making this team. Not with the amount of numbers being distributed around this roster. I just think the safety position is going to get a raw deal. They're only going to keep 4. So now you go to some individual matchups at the bottom. So you go on to cornerback Sean Smith battling Ron Parker for starters reps across from a guy that came out and played some great football a season. He got beat by some elite level quarterbacks last year, but he stepped up big time for you last year. And Marcus Cooper is someone that you feel really good about. Now you're looking for him to have a running mate across from him. And this is a situation where I'm just looking around your cornerbacks and I'm saying, and you let Brandon Flowers go? Now look, I know you Chiefs fans out there are talking about, oh, he played terrible last year, this, that, and the third. And he's still better than a lot of these guys you got on your roster. And it's not like you were paying this guy $9 million per year. I think he was only due $5 million this year. So, and I'm not saying, Ron Parker is better than Brandon Flowers. I'm just saying. This could be a really good cornerback battle, or this could be one that ends up biting you in the tuchus right here, because to be truthful, Sean Smith is a solid corner, but he's got a lot of deficiencies. And he can be beaten. He'll give up some penalties, but he'll also make some big plays. We've already seen that in the preseason. So we'll see. I like Sean Smith. I like it. I love his size. I love his physicality. But he's a guy that can be beaten. We've seen it before. So we'll see. Ron Parker, you feel like you have some depth. We'll see how the cornerback position shakes out. And last but not least, kicker. I talked about Ryan Suckup sucking last season. And yes, pun was intended there. Cairo Santos, for all intents and purposes, has a bigger leg. He was outstanding at Tulane last season, 21 of 21, including a 57-yard bomb last year. All he has to do is come in and show well. That's it. The Chiefs want to get rid of Ryan Suckup. They want to alleviate him of his duties. So all Cairo Santos has to come in is give them a reason. Give them a reason to make a change, and they will. So we'll see if Brian Suckup can hold off the young Santos, or if Cairo Santos comes in and shows them everything that they're looking for and everything that they missed out of the field goal kicking position last season. So those are your camp battles for the Kansas City Chiefs. We move on to the experiment, which I have dubbed Chiefs on the chopping block. Is this Kansas City Chiefs team on the chopping block? That is a very pertinent question going into the 2014 season. A lot of people seem to think that this team, they lost a lot in the offseason and did not replenish some of those positions, and it's going to come back to bite them. We will discuss in this experiment. Let's jump into the research question. With a less than stellar offseason, can the Chiefs, who are now in the NFL spotlight, repeat the success of 2013 amidst all the changes or lack thereof in 2014? You snuck up on some folks. You didn't sneak up on me last year. I was drooling. I had to wipe my mouth several times because I was speaking so highly of this Chiefs offseason last year. I was the first one in the front of the line talking about how good this Chiefs team was going to be, how many improvements they had made, and how they were going to be a team to reckon with in 2013. I was in the front of that line. Go check the archives. I was in the front of that line. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm in front of the line with the pitchforks and the torches saying that you did a lot of things wrong this last offseason. Some of it was due to money issues and having to cut costs. I get it. I understand. Sometimes you got to make some TDs. You got tough decisions to make. I understand the nature of the business. But some of this was just your own negligence. And sometimes you can outsmart yourself. And I think the Chiefs did a little bit of both. Outsmarting themselves and having to make tough decisions. Either way, you're not hiding from anyone this year. You're not sneaking up on anybody. Everybody knows who you are. Last year, you were the 2-14 Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, one of the worst teams in the league. You had the first pick in the draft. Nobody was expecting you to jump up and bite them last year, and you did. You jumped up and bit a bunch of folks last year. Nobody's going to be turning the other way and looking away when you show up to town. They're circling the calendar now. You're one of the teams that made it to the postseason. Teams are gunning for your spot in the postseason now. And you had a really weak schedule last year. One of the worst. So you were able to take advantage of some bad football teams last year. And you did that. And that's what you're supposed to do. If you're a good team and you're better than the team you're playing against, dominate them. And that's what you did. But that's not the case this year. You win games, the level of competition steps up greatly. Well, you're going to be tested this year. Hypothesis. If the Chiefs can have their offseason reflect addition by subtraction and get the same productivity out of their defense and special teams, then the Chiefs will be in the mix again in the AFC West. Last season, I told you you were living right. You were living right. Everything went your way last year. Even when it didn't go your way, it still went your way last year. So the only thing that stopped you from having probably a deeper playoff run is that you played in the same division with the Denver Broncos. Not only did they sweep you last year, but they won the division. If not for Denver being so dominant, let's assume that the Denver Broncos were okay. Let's say they were a 10-win team last year and you were able to beat them once. You go 12-4, you win the division, and the outcome of your season is vastly different. Instead, they were 13-3. They win a division. You go 11-5. You got to go on the road to play Indianapolis. You lose in Wild Card Weekend. That's the way the cookie crumbles in the National Football League. But if you can get all of the things that happened to you last year that happened to you again this year, first of all, there's no way that everything that happened last year can happen again. No way. If one's luck, 2 is a trend. You do it again next year, and you're just that damn good. And I question whether you're just that damn good. So we will see. Materials needed. Dun, 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 dun. Captain, check down. You gotta have it. Look, I can sit here and I make fun of Alex Smith. I love making fun of Alex Smith, but that's my guy though. I kid because I care. All right, I kid because I care. That's my guy. Because I know Alex Smith, he's true to himself. He's true to the game, right? You can say what you want about Alex Smith. You know, I make fun of him about being captain check down all the time. And the numbers back up my claim and reflect that he is a guy that is cautious with the football. 6.5 yards per completion last year, one of the worst in the league. But that's who he is. But he wins football games because of it. He's true to himself. I don't care what everybody's saying about me. That's what Alex Smith does. He goes with the mentality. I don't care what they're saying about me. What I do is I produce wins on the field. No, I'm not throwing for 317 yards every game. No, I don't have the most explosive passing game in the league, but I have a very efficient one. I keep this offense on schedule, on time. When opportunities present themselves, I take advantage of them. He is what he is. Just continue being captain check down, my man. Now, it'd be nice if these tight ends come in and they change the game for you. Got 2 of them that are really athletic this year. Be nice if they came in and changed the game. Be nice if Dwayne Bowe got more active in this offense. It'd be nice if one of these other guys that you got a lot of stuff at receiver. Be nice if one of them stepped up too. Helped out. Jamal Charles shouldn't lead your team in receiving. That shouldn't happen. No running back should lead their team in rushing and receiving. That's a no-no. Can't happen. But it did in Kansas City. That can't happen again. So you've got to start broadening your horizons a little bit. Go ahead and broaden them a little bit. But stay true to yourself, stay true to the game, and remain dun, 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 Captain Check Down. He's my favorite superhero. You've been robbed. Wake up, wake up. Get on the floor. Don't cry no more. You've been robbed. Last year, that's what the Chiefs did. This year, that's what the Chiefs need to do. There were several times when I looked around, I said, damn, I could have sworn I had a football. Teams were doing this last year. I could have sworn I had the football right here. It was right here. I swear. They go over to the coach. I swear the football was right here, coach. I don't know what happened to it. The Kansas City Chiefs robbed you, man. And when you looked up, they were running. The whole defensive squad was running the other way. You're like, damn, I just had the football. It was just right here. I swear, coach. I don't know what happened to it. The Chiefs took it from you. They robbed you, man. They robbed you. They were robbing folks blind last year, man. They were robbing folks blind last year. 21 INTs, third best in the league. Most fumble recoveries with 15. They were taking them to the house. 7 defensive touchdowns. They were robbing folks last year. If you're going to do what you did last year, if you're going to get back to the postseason, if you're going to be relevant in the AFC West, in the AFC landscape, you're going to have to keep robbing folks, man. That was brilliant. Brilliant last year, what you did on the defensive side of the football. You were some dirty thieves last year. You got to keep it up. Because, again, I don't know about this offense. You don't know about this offense. We can't assume special teams is going to do, even though I really like what the Block Mamba is doing. You can't assume special teams is going to be that dynamic again. So you're going to have to keep doing what you did last year. Wake up. Wake up. Give me those jewels. You stinking fools. You've been robbed. Kansas City, keep robbing them blind, man. Keep robbing them blind. That's a recipe for success in the National Football League. Red-bellied Black Mamba. Red-bellied Black Mamba. Look, I talked about this kid glowingly in my draft wrap-up series. And I said, this kid is going to change the game. Now, Dexter McCluster changed the game last season. And you couldn't bring him back. And that was one of those I was a little sour about that. I was not happy with you. And again, he got some really good money from Tennessee. So I can't blame you from that end of the spectrum. But still, the dude was a huge contributor. So I was a little upset. I was a little salty. Then when I saw what you did in the draft, I said, okay, Kansas City, I see what you're doing here, and I like it. So now I said I need to see proof that you're going to be what Dexter McCluster. And even if he's not quite what Dexter was, remember, Dexter was in his 4th season or 3rd season. So you can understand that Dexter had matured as a football player and he understood what he needed to do. DeAnthony Thomas is going to be in his rookie season. So even if he's not quite what Dexter was last year, he's still going to be dynamic and explosive. But he showed us in that first preseason game, he's going to be a problem. One that teams in that AFC West aren't going to want to have to deal with. So I'm not only asking for the Black Mamba. I'm not only asking for the Black Mamba DeAnthony Thomas to be a significant part of this football team, especially on special teams. I want to see him be dynamic on offense too. But the reason it's red-bellied Black Mamba is because the kickoff return, and he's not on kickoffs. He's on punt returns. Your kickoff return unit last year was out of sight too. You know, whether it was Nile Davis or the safety that you had back there, and I always forget his name, but he's in New York now. Whether it was one of those two, they were lighting it up last year. Whether it was a 97-yard kickoff return or 102 yards, they got it done, man. They got it done. So you're going to need them to step up too. And that's why I talked about Albert Wilson making this roster, because he looked damn impressive in that Cincinnati game. He had one of those returns where you could see some explosiveness from this kid, some athletic ability, some agility to be able to start, stop, cut, and speed up and go much faster than slow. He looks like he could be the guy that could help you on kickoff returns along with Black Mamba. On punt returns. So, red-bellied Black Mamba. This is all-encompassing. This whole special teams return unit, including Black Mamba, who's going to lead the way, going to have to step up. Chiefly responsible. Chiefly responsible. I'm talking to the defense here. You are chiefly responsible for the success of this team. I know the offense isn't that dynamic. We know that. That is a fact. Okay? We know the special teams, they were lights out last year. Are they going to do that again? You don't know that for sure. Now, DeAnthony Thomas looks the part, but you can't be certain. Okay? So don't make any assumptions. You know what they say about making assumptions. Okay? Don't do that. Don't do that. But what we can count on, what we do know, is that this defense can be dominant at times. Now, I'm going to need you to step up and do that again. I'm going to need the H&H sack factory. I'm going to need them to go ahead and get double digits. Both of them. Both of them. I'm going to need them to step up. I'm going to need the interior of this defensive line. And really across the board, I'm going to need them to step up. Dontari Poe, do your thing. Do what you do. I'm going to need Derek Johnson to continue playing at a Pro Bowl, All-Pro level. And then that secondary, question marks, need you to step up. Need you to step up. So there are questions, but you're chiefly responsible for the success of this team. Because even if the offense falters, even if special teams isn't doing what they did a season ago, I need you to still do what you did last year, which is give up less than 20 points. In order for you to have a fighting chance, a puncher's chance of getting back to what you did last year, defense is going to have to hold it down. They're going to have to be the constant of this football team. With great power comes great responsibility. You are chiefly responsible for this team's success. Talking to you, defense. Talking to you. Red helmet hustlers. Red helmet hustlers. Talked about this defense. And look, man, they were getting it in last year. They were getting it in. And you're going to have to do it again. You're going to have to force turnovers, and not just any turnovers. You're going to have to score touchdowns. This team is dependent on you now. You started something last year. You messed up, is what you did. Because now the offense is looking for your help now. The offense is, hey, we don't have to score, but we don't have to score 24. As an offense, we just need to score 17. The defense or special teams, they'll take care of the other 7 and get us to 24 and help us win. You spoiled the offense now. You messed up. Can't go back now. You got to continue to be red helmet hustlers. You got to go out. You got to not only take the football away, you got to score. And if you don't score, you got to put the offense right in the red zone, right in scoring range. So they don't have to put together a drive. They can just try to put the ball in the end zone. Good luck. You started a problem. Now you got to be hustlers. And I'm going to tell you what. You were gamblers. The reason why you were red helmet hustlers is because last year you took risk. You took risk. In the passing game, you gave up a lot of explosive plays in the passing game. You gave up a lot of explosive runs in the running game. A lot. I mean, teams would gash you. 40-yard runs, 20-plus yard runs. They were gashing you in the run game. Gassing you in the air. Big plays. Because you got guys that are gamblers. Sean Smith is a gambler. He'll take a chance. He'll go after the football, miss, boom. 72-yard touchdown given up. San Diego got you at the end of the game last year. You know why? You gambled. You were hustlers. You gambled. Phillip Rivers burnt you. They ended up beating you in Arrowhead. Denver, they gassed you. Remember that track meet that was that Denver game in Arrowhead last year? Remember that game? Up and down, Peyton Manning shredding you. Eric Decker went off on you. Remember that? Y'all gamblers. That's what y'all do on defense. But you giveth, you taketh away. You might give up some big plays. Don't matter. You made a whole bunch of them yourself. So what I'm saying to you is scared money don't make money. Never has, never will. Scared money don't make money. So you got to continue to be red helmet hustlers. Your team depends on you. Got to get it done. So we move on to the independent variable. The perfect storm. Last year it was the perfect storm. And you're going to need much of the same this year. You had a weak schedule. You got turnovers. You scored on special teams. And you didn't turn it over yourself. If that's not the perfect storm, then I don't know what is. You need that again. And I don't think you can get that again. That's my whole rationale for what I'm about to say to you is I just don't see you. From year to year, things change and fluctuate in this league. One year, you could be on top of the world in terms of turnovers, forcing them, scoring off of them. Special teams can be. I think your special teams unit is good. And usually, that's something that is consistent. If you've got a really good special teams unit and a dynamic return man, as long as that's intact, normally that doesn't change from year to year. But turnovers do. I mean, you can be a team that generates, a league-leading 30 turnovers one year, or a league-leading 40 turnovers, because that's more along the lines of a number that would lead the league. You could lead the league in 40 turnovers, and then the next year be one of the worst with only 17 forced. I mean, that's how fickle it is. You can force 21 fumbles this year, which is the same number that you forced last year. Last year, you scooped up 16 of them, led the league. The next year, you only scoop up 7 of those 21 fumbles. And that was second worst in the league. The ball might not bounce your way. The perfect storm is what you need to have this team get back to 11-5, 10-6, 12-4, and back to the postseason. And I just don't know if that can happen. That takes us to our dependent variable. That's wins. You're not playing a cupcake schedule this year. When you want to finish second in your division, you get second place teams from a season ago. You had a last place schedule last year. So that means you got to play the Bills. You got to play all the teams that were terrible a season ago. Jacksonville, you got to smack them around in Jacksonville last year. That kind of gave you a confidence boost last year. Beating up all those inferior teams. Other teams are getting better in your division. Oakland, they got better. They still got a suspect quarterback, but they got better. You're not going to go to Oakland and score 56 points this year like you did last year. They're better. You know, you're not playing the NFC East this year. They were terrible last year. You beat up the Redskins, put 50 on their head, was able to get Dallas at home, was able to get Philadelphia before they figured out Nicholas Foles was the answer at quarterback. You mopped the Giants. You swept that division. They were terrible last year. You're not doing that again. You got the NFC West this year. That's Seattle. That's San Francisco. That's St. Louis. That's Arizona. No, you're not doing that again. This schedule is terrible for you. So, there's some question marks here. You move on to constant. Arrowhead Stadium. No matter what the record is, no matter how porous this team is, how good you are, how bad you are, they're going to show up. They're going to be rocking. It's going to be loud, and it's going to be red, a sea of red. That's something that you can rely on. The loudest outdoor stadium in the National Football League, I think. Because in Seattle, I feel like they're pumping in some extra stuff. I don't think you're doing it. I just think you got it loud there. You guys just get it amped up. So, Arrowhead, to me, is a constant for you. That's something you can rely on week in, week out. You took advantage of it last year. You had a really good home mark last season, and I think you need to continue to build on that. Get it done at home. Keep getting it done at home. Arrowhead is the constant of this football team. And conclusion, what does this all mean for Kansas City? Wow. It's a lot here. Very convoluted situation. I basically explained to you why it is I feel like this Chiefs team can't do what they did a season ago. I wasn't impressed with your offseason. I wasn't a big fan of Brandon Flowers being released. I knew Brandon Albert was going to be gone. That was out of your control. I don't even think he wanted to be back in Kansas City. And you already had an exit strategy for that already anyway. You already knew that was happening, and you already had prepared yourself for it. That doesn't make the situation better because of it. You drafted D Ford. I get the basis there. You're going to lose Tamba Hali here shortly. I get it. Groom the young fella so that he can step in, seamless transition from one defensive end or outside linebacker to the next. You needed a receiver and you didn't get one. You lost offensive linemen, and I don't feel like you did enough to replace them, to replenish. I don't like what you did this offseason. I don't. You're getting some stuff. Tight end is a better position this year. I think that your running back situation might have gotten better with the addition of DeAnthony Thomas. But there are so many question marks here. The offensive line, how are they going to perform this year? I don't know. Can special teams and defense do what they did a season ago? I don't know. The competition has stepped up tremendously, immensely. I just told you how much tougher your scheduling is this year. You got New England. You got the Jets. The Jets play defense just like you do. You got Miami. This is tough. You got Pittsburgh. This is a second place schedule here. So you got the Steelers. You don't get the Browns this year. You get the Steelers. 5-11. 5-11. I just feel like there's too much against you. Last year was the perfect storm. This year, I just don't see everything coming together at once for you like that. Again, 5-11. Wow, 5-11. Yeah, that's what it is. So that's the Kansas City Chiefs and their lab report. I thank you for joining me. Come back and join me again. You know how we do it if it happens. In the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me. We're about to rev it up. 2-a-days. 2-a-days. All right? We're about to rev it up. So come back and join me tomorrow as we get into America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. See you then.
Like the content? Want more? Sub up.